So that's my Blackthorn bow, now fitted with the string and at a low brace height. The question now is, can I make it bend like a bow? So I'm now at the stage of tillering this Blackthorn bow. This period is always a challenge for me. I find it really difficult to get it right. It's the progressive bending of the bow until its shape agrees with the form that I'm looking for. A rather nice flowing bend from the handle out to the tips. And of course I've got to bear in mind the wood that I'm using. It's a hard wood. I'm not familiar with it. I don't know how it bends. So I've got to tease it along, bit by bit, minute by minute, and hopefully, in the end, I'll get there. I'm using a cabinet scraper, which is just a flat piece of metal with a burr along the edge, to take some shavings off the belly of the bow, and then I rebend it to see if it's improved. At each scraping, only the tiniest amount of wood is removed. Leaving the bark on this stave may in the end lead to a really attractive looking bow, but whilst it's on the tiller it really confuses my eye as I try to establish a correct bend in each of the limbs. Goldfinch. So I've had a little bit of a problem whilst tillering this bow, inasmuch as the tips don't quite line up with the handle. They're a little bit off centre, particularly on this limb here. So what I'm doing is heat bending this limb back into line using a heat gun. I've coated the area I want to bend with some oil. I've clamped this end of the bow, there's a weight that end, and on here there's a block of wood over which it's pivoting downwards. The aim being to heat this limb and the weight gradually pulling the stave into line. I've got to wait now until tomorrow morning to see whether this heat bending has worked. Okay, let's see whether my attempt to straighten the tip on this bow has been successful. Well, that seems to have worked because the tip of this bow now lines up with its body. Now this may be a complete and utter waste of time, but I'm oiling the back of this bow, the bark of this bow, in the hope that it remains supple all the way through the tillering process. Not only would I like to make a Blackthorn bow, but I'd like to make a Blackthorn bow with its bark intact, because the contrast between this lovely plum coloured wood when it's polished and the heartwood is really fantastic. Now this bow is not yet at full brace height, but I'm pulling it back to around about 15 inches on the tillering tree, and it's not looking too bad. I'm now retying the bowyer's knot with the aim of increasing the brace height of this Blackthorn bow. It's only a little bit, but slowly, I hope, wins the day. Now this tip is slightly recurved, that is, it curves away from the archer, and it means that the string is lying quite close to the bow tip. Let's compare that to the other end. Here we have the opposite. The tip curves inwards, that is, towards the archer, and the string is quite a bit further away from this limb. Both those tips fool my eye when I'm tillering. Now it's braced at 5 inches. Slowly but slowly. The shape of that left limb is still troubling me a lot, but piece by piece I hope to get there. Okay, that's drawing 70 pounds at 21 inches when it's set at a 5-inch brace height. When tillering a bow, it's sometimes essential just to stop and stare. It's easy to miss things when you're in a rush, so I find some cake and coffee really helps. It's raining heavily at the moment, so I'm taking this opportunity to remove the tooling marks using a cabinet scraper all the way up and down the length of this Blackthorn bow. Now my measured draw length is actually 27 inches, which means a further 6 inches of draw on the tillering post before this bow's ready, and those 6 inches are going to be really nerve-wracking. Full 6-inch brace height. Okay, here we go with the final tillering now, with a brace height set at 6 inches and my aim to get it to 27 inches draw. I'm scared to death. Wrongly or rightly, my eyes are still telling me that that left limb is not yet correct. I sometimes find it easier when I'm tillering a bow to keep turning the bow round, so the limb that was on the left is then on the right, and vice versa. And I've just done this, so the problem limb is now the limb on the right. Okay, this is the series of pulls that I hope takes this Blackthorn longbow right the way to 27 inches draw. It'll either explode or it'll be my 9th bow. "27 inches. I've still got plenty of work to do to finish this bow, which will include sanding it down, and that will reduce the draw weight somewhat. But right now, at 27 inches draw, this Blackthorn bow has a rather impressive 80 pounds draw weight. And the bark is still on. So my next jobs on this Blackthorn bow include refining the tiller on that limb, some sanding and polishing, but until then, I think a small test is in order. Well, on this rather wet day in an English May, this is my Blackthorn Bow. It's 67 inches tip to tip and draws just a whisker under 80 pounds at 27 inches draw. It's finished with beeswax and boiled linseed oil. And even though I say so myself, it doesn't look too bad. Thank you everyone that's watched and commented and liked this series of videos. I appreciate you being there. I'll see you next time.